this wasn't the video I planned on doing today. No, you see, in my last 2 videos I kept saying, I'm back, which obviously was a huge lie I must apologise for, because clearly I wasn't back. Immediately after uploading my last video I got quite sick, and ended up spending weeks in and out of bed, so I just watched other people's YouTube videos. Everyone from Squidmar to the Grimdark Compendium, which was absolutely the worst thing I could have done for my wallet, because out of sheer boredom I just bought everything I saw recommended. But you know what else I noticed? Everyone's views have tanked. Like, if Squidmar, with over 700,000 subscribers, can barely break 150,000 views per video, it doesn't really give the rest of us much motivation to continue. Especially when hobby videos take a lot of time and effort to make, and YouTube shows them no love. I mean, we hobby creators would get better views switching to editing scenes from the Last of Us TV show, and moaning about Bella Ramsey's jovial comedic revenge adventure with her hot, kinda lesbian pregnant sidekick. So, in short, I need to get my hobby mojo back, and I needed a quick win. This room, however, was in desperate need of a tidy up, so I figured I'd do that first. And don't look at this carefully curated backdrop. I keep this side organised for filming, but the rest of the room looks like someone dropped a hobby store on top of my house. During my completely unsuccessful cleanup, I came across this box. Now, I'd already made the 3 models in this box a long time ago, mainly so they could join my pile of unpainted shame and become part of yet another unfinished grey army. An army that was full of endless promise until some new shiny thing caught my attention instead, and I just moved on. Like Netflix after informing Zack Snyder that Rebel Moon Parts 3, 4, 5 and 6 would have to remain in his imagination. Apparently he's still digesting that conversation. In super slow-mo. Now, I love these models. They're some of the most expressive and fun sculpts that Games Workshop have released, and it's one of the most customizable kits they make. But it's also one of the kits with the most waste, and consequently the most irritation. So, to get back into the mood and scratch that itch of hobby mojo, I decided to finally fix this box. Hi, I'm Will, and you're watching the State of Play. Now, anyone who's ever bought this box or has these models from a larger set will know that after you've built your 3 chosen Rockgut Troggoths, you're left with so many extra parts, you're convinced you could probably make another 3. After scrutinising the sprues for a bit, you realise that all you'd need are 3 pairs of legs and access to 3 necks. Every man's idea of a Saturday night fantasy. Well, that'll be easy, you think. I'll just grab some from eBay. But just like trying to organise that Saturday night fantasy, you realise that no one will want to give you their legs and necks, because those are absolutely required to make any of the models. Now, Games Workshop won't sell you legs and necks, even in resin, because then you wouldn't need to buy a whole new box of trolls. And if you did buy a whole new box, then at that point you'd have double the waste problem you had before. You're left with a bunch of sprues that are almost full, that are just pure injection moulded waste. And if your last name was Thunberg, you'd also have noticed that model sprues aren't really cost effective to recycle, so you can't even do that either. Let's face it, making sprue goo with all this stuff just makes you feel sad, like the end of Terminator 2 when lowering Arnie into the molten metal. I know you guys feel me in this, because it doesn't just happen with this box. I think I've got a box of Venomthropes that have the same issue. With a few extra tails, I could also have some Zoanthropes. In fact, I've now started going through all my old boxes to see what extras I can get out of them. Actually, feel free to go to town in the comments with all the kits that suffer from Games Workshop wastage, where a few tiny extra bits would get you a host of new models. And yes, I'm not immune to the concept of capitalism. I fully understand the point of this is to make you buy more models. But, you know what I say? Balls to that! If Games Workshop hates 3D printing so much, then why on earth do they keep making decisions that push us all further into 3D printing? I mean, I recently came to the dawning realisation that I could digitally buy and 3D print an entire set of Last of Us style miniatures and their bases, complete with urban junk to glue on, for less than $30 and 3 hours of printing. And now, I can literally make my own tabletop game. In the case of my Troggoth problem, after a literal 30-second Google search, I found a set of 3D printable legs and necks for less than the price of a Starbucks. So I printed these out with my trusty pour and print Hagears RS. Oh, and guess what? I actually have a sponsorship segment in a video today. Kind of. It's the first one that's, integrated in rather than a full video. And it's for the new Hagears Reflex RS Turbo, which you can pick up at a huge discount until the 19th of June. There's a whole set of deals to suit individual budgets, and if you use my discount code, THESTATEOFPLAY, you can get an extra $50 off. Okay, Will, but what's the RS Turbo? Well, you'd be forgiven for thinking it's the car of choice in Essex, because it's not. It's the new, faster, sharper, higher contrast, longer lasting screen version of the Hagears Reflex RS printer. Now, Hagears didn't send me a new printer, they sent me a new screen, which is actually the best way to upgrade from the original RS to get a much improved, longer lasting, sharper amber screen to speed up and improve your prints. But, being brutally honest with you guys, I actually declined this sponsorship because I didn't want to swap out a perfectly good screen that still has a little life left in it, especially after I've told you guys how easy this printer is to use. And to me, showing you all how to swap out the screen was the exact opposite of plug-and-play ease-of-use simplicity, so I said no thanks to Hagears. But unknown to Hagears, I'm doing the unpaid sponsorship anyway because even though I declined, they sent me the screen anyway and said, well, when your old screen needs replacing, now you've got a new one. Like, for a company many seem to dislike, they do go out of their way to help customers, like even when getting nothing in return. Like, I'm sticking to my recommendation of this printer. I'm not going to lie, I love it. So, if you want to pick up this new printer, upgrade your previous Reflex RS screen, or grab the new screen now while it's on sale to keep for later like me, or maybe you just want a bunch of resin at a discount until the 19th of June. Just don't forget to use the discount code THESTATEOFPLAY for an extra $50 off. Now, what was I talking about? Oh, yes. As I said, I'd already built 3 Troggoths probably about 3 years ago now, and back then I had to decide which of the poses I wanted to use, which weapons I wanted in which hand based on how I needed these units to work in-game. I ended up opting for the 3 you see here, but I do remember being annoyed that the sprues seemed to have more meat left on those bones than a plate of ribs at a vegetarian barbecue. Especially when all you'd really need to get your teeth into what's left is access to another 3 pairs of scrawny little troll legs, because there's still loads of arms and a huge array of heads left over that aren't really of that much use in a bits box. I couldn't help look through the instructions to see what else was left to make, and it turned out that there was 3 entire torsos and 6 different heads. A veritable Mexican cartel roadside dump of parts. If you're familiar with this kit, you'll know that you can basically assemble the left arm side and the right arm side separately, and then you get to play around and mix and match which of these arms you want to pair up. Because the genius of this specific kit is that any arm can go with any arm, and then you just glue on the neck piece and plop the torso onto the legs. So, depending on which combination of arms you choose, decides the overall look and pose of your troll. Of course, you need the necks and legs, and I found these on Cult 3D for the princely sum of £4.22. Less than the cost of a caramel macchiato. And that's where my Hagears printer came in, because I literally just threw the STLs into Blueprint and printed them. No fuss, no hassle, no resin calibration, and no fails. What you end up with is 3 different sets of legs and 3 different necks. Now, depending on how you've assembled your arms, you should now have in front of you 3 almost entire Rockgut Troggoths, albeit headless. Now, to be expected, when joining 3D printed parts to kit parts, they aren't exactly a perfect fit, so some gap filling is going to be needed. And as you might know from my channel already, I use this Vallejo plastic putty with the tiny nozzle, mainly because I can't stand working with, making, mixing, or the smell of sprue goo. I'd literally rather handle the molten metal from Terminator 2. I use this stuff because it's easy. I squeeze it into the hole and then smooth it off with either a damp brush or a damp cotton swab, and the whole process takes minutes. And when dried and painted, you'd never know it was there. At this point, all that's left is choosing 3 heads. And as I said before, there's 6 left over to choose from. Ultimately, it's going to come down to what you want because the head doesn't change how the model works in-game, it's purely an aesthetic choice. Okay, we're done. 3 brand new Rockgut Troggoths, except the kit only comes with 3 bases, and I don't have any 50mm bases just lying around. I was about to jump in my car and go buy some when I stupidly realised that I could just print some on my Bamboo A1. Best part is bases are basically free using Bamboo's online maker lab. Just search for the base you want and print. And these kinds of bases are almost indistinguishable from normal bases, right down to the texture on the top from the textured printing plate. Sometimes it takes a while to break a multi-year habit. I keep forgetting that many of the things I used to have to buy, I can now actually just make at home, from bases to paint mediums, from airbrush cleaner to fully modular terrain. So now I have 3 more fully assembled trolls, turning my box of 3 into a box of 6, and the total cost in STLs, resin and PLA came to less than £7.50. And Warhammer want to charge you £40 for a full box just so you can have double the amount of waste. I really don't understand why Games Workshop don't just start selling STLs. Like, they'll only really be bought by people who have 3D printers. Everyone else will still buy kit models, and Games Workshop gets the best of both worlds because they generate revenue from 2 streams while simultaneously taking a huge bite out of 3D printed competition. But then this is the company that still rigidly defies the dropper bottle revolution and sells a paint palette in the shape of a skull to grown adults. And yes, I know, saying this and making this video isn't exactly going to endear me to Games Workshop, and as Trevelyan said in the comments on my last video, no Games Workshop creator program for you, ever. I don't imagine Mexican cartel jokes are allowed in a Warhammer video. Anyway, after going through today's process, I'm a lot happier with the wastage that's left in the box. 3 heads and an unused rock, which I don't feel so bad about using as basing scatter at some point in the future. Now, the point of today's video wasn't just to get my hobby mojo back, although yeah, it might have been. It was also to get you to think about how many boxes, kits, bits and spares you have lying around that could potentially be entirely new models, either using a 3D printer to make some parts, or maybe by kit bashing or sculpting the extra bits you need. I can't be the only one with so much sprue wastage that has the potential to become a whole new pile of shame. Yeah, I probably should have thought about that one a bit harder. So all that remains is for me to thank my amazing patrons and to let you know that I've linked everything I've talked about today in the description, if it helps. For hobby supplies and recommendations, tips and tricks, feel free to visit thestateofplay.co.uk. And yes, I'm trying to shorten the outro to my videos because most of you don't watch it anyway. Like, the drop-off at this point is huge. Still not as bad as the viewership for The Last of Us Season 2 though. That's the state of play for today. See you soon.